Hello Year 10 and welcome to your genetics unit. So far we have looked at the history of DNA, we have looked at briefly our DNA made up of or found on our chromosomes made up of genes, and we've had a go at making a DNA model. What we're going to look at today is our DNA, I suppose, in a little bit more detail and how that actually codes for proteins. And so when we talk about coding for proteins, it's providing the instructions for your body to make the proteins that are needed for your body to function. So here we see, what do people mean when they say it's in or his or her genes? And so sometimes if we're looking at perhaps your behavior, people might explain it as, oh, it's in his genes, his dad did the same thing, and so forth. And interestingly, they have actually found a psychopath gene, and they had been talking about that not that long ago and wondering, whether we could test prior to having our baby as to whether they have the psychopath gene. Hopefully that's not one that's in your genes. So what is it that when we're talking about what is a gene? As we've mentioned before, a gene is a unit of inheritance. So it's sections of our DNA that contains complete messages. So our color of our eyes is determined by the genes that you inherited from your parents. Some characteristics might be determined by more than one gene. It might be that there's a number of different genes that determine that trait. So our gene is not just one nitrogenous base, not one A, one T. It's a number of them that is then what makes up your gene. So it's a section of that DNA. As we've spoken about before, our genes are found on our DNA, which are in our chromosomes. So here you can see we have got all our nitrogenous bases here. This whole 6 may be one gene. 2 of them could also in another chromosome be another gene. So there's no set number that there has to be. It's just a segment of DNA, and that's our segment of DNA there. Then you can see that it rolls along. So our double helix comes along. If we get back into the classroom, we'll have a look at making or pulling some of that out of our strawberries, as I said before, and then they're wound up and found on our chromosome. So the sequence of those nucleotides, the sequence of the A's, the C's, the T's, and the G's along that DNA molecule is actually a chemical code. It tells us how to make certain proteins. So to do that, we have a group of 3, which we call a codon, and a group of 3 make an amino acid, and they code for that. And then it's that message, those 3-letter words, that make up then the protein, which determines your traits. So what we're going to do is have a go at a little activity to see how this actually works in practice. So I'm going to provide you with a worksheet in your lesson plan that I want you to have a look at, and it's called DNA Cracking the Code. So as we've already said before, a gene is like a long sentence made up of 3-letter words. So the cat, sat, mat. But each of them are 3-letter words. So if we have a look, each sentence consists of lots of 3-letter words. The words are written in a code, and it's only using, as we've talked about before, the letters A, T, C, and G. Each word, each 3-letter group of letters is called a codon, and it codes for a piece of protein called an amino acid, and those groups of amino acids combine together to form that protein. So if we have a look here at this sheet and we come down here, here's our genetic code. If I have got a T, and a T together, like here, then what we're finding is that T, T, and T make up an amino acid called phenylene, I think it is, but it's given the abbreviation PHE. Now, interestingly, interestingly, if I look over here, I've got lots going on. Forget that. Thought I was being tricky. If we have a look over here, TTC also makes that same amino acid. So you could be sitting next to a person that might have their code TTT and the rest might be the same, but the person sitting next to you might have TTC and the rest might be the same. It's going to make that same group of amino acids. So different codes can still make the same amino acid that will still make the same protein in your body, which will still result in curly hair or straight hair, but your code is different. So here, if you've got your amino acid, your base code on your DNA being TTA, it makes the amino acid leucine. But so do all of these. CTC still makes that same amino acid. CTC still makes that same amino acid. So when we talk about your code is different, the order of the letters are different, but those letters, a variety of letters, can still make the same protein. So I know that sounds a little bit confusing, but when you see it in action, you will see that it might work a bit better for you. So down the bottom here, if I get an amino acid that says MET, so where's MET? MET's here. An ATG. If I get a MET, and you'll notice they all start with MET, that's kind of like the start reading this sentence now statement. So it's the start codon, the one that says to read it. So MET. Then we go to SIR. Now, any one of these in this order can make that amino acid SIR. Then if I get a THR, so we've got to find where that is, and it's these four here, then a GLN, then a PHE, that person will have red hair. Now, there's a number of different ways that a person can get red hair. That doesn't mean we've all got the same base order, but we can get red hair. Then we've got this combination is what makes blonde hair. This combination makes black, and this combination makes brown. Now, if I was better technologically wise, I would flip this, and I'm sure I could before, but for some reason I can't now. So we're going to go through and look at this first person here. So you can see ATG, that's our 3-word sentence. So we draw a line through there. That's our first sentence, or first word, sorry, ATG, first line. So we go back to the table on the previous page, and you would see that ATG makes MET. Now that's what that little line there's for. Then we look at the next one, TCA. Go to your table, look for TCA, see what amino acid it corresponds with, and write that there. So what I do is I go through and every third letter, 1, 2, 3, draw a line, 1, 2, 3, draw a line, 1, 2, 3, draw a line, all the way along into our 3-letter words. Then, using the other sheet that you've got, you match up those 3 letters with an amino acid, and then use the code at the bottom that says MET, SIR, Thi, whatever, to tell you what color hair they've got. So there are 3 people in this diagram that you're going to work out the code using the previous page to work out what color hair each of them is. And this is just a little bit of an introduction into how our genes code for certain characteristics you have, and that's our segue into inheritance and how you actually go about inheriting those characteristics from your parents.